Hi everybody, this is probably going to be one of the most advanced videos you will see here in my entire channel. And the reason for that is because generally this super advanced type of content, I reserve it for my paid videos. Like I actually have a paid academy in my website where people purchase much more detailed, advanced, really technical type of videos like this. However, we have a sponsor on this video, and that sponsor is RightTool. Now, RightTool is actually a app I co-developed, and it just happens to be that one of the newest features in RightTool allows you to batch edit or batch change or batch modify multiple transactions with custom fields. So it's going to be really highly related to this video, because in this video, we're going to do a really deep dive on custom fields inside QuickBooks Online Advanced. So the first 80% of the video, we're going to go into QuickBooks Online Advanced. I'm going to break down every single type of custom field. I'm going to show you how the custom fields work in relation to the transactions and to the reports. And then towards the end of the video, towards the back end of the video, I'm going to open up RightTool and then show you this new feature that allows you to batch edit historical transactions with those custom fields. So let's get started. I am in QuickBooks Online Advanced. Now, I do keep in mind that I did a separate video where I talk about custom fields in the lower versions of QuickBooks Online. So if you have QuickBooks Online Simple Start, Essentials, or Plus, you're going to want to check out that other video. I'll put the link in the description where I walk you through how that works. In this particular video, we're going to be focusing on QuickBooks Online Advanced only. So we're going to click on the gear menu on the top right of the screen, and then we're going to go into custom fields. Okay. So I'm in the custom field screen where no custom field has ever been created. So we're going to click here where it says add custom field. You're going to see a drawer open on the right hand side, and you're going to see a couple suggestions, like, maybe you want to track sales rep, maybe you want to track PO number, maybe customer type, vendor details, project manager, etc. Let's take one of these suggestions, sales rep, and then we'll take that as a template, so to speak. So the name of the field is called sales rep. Now I'm going to add a little asterisk at the beginning. This is going to be helpful for reporting purposes later on. I'll show you how that works, but I'm just going to add a little asterisk. That's not a requirement. That's just the way I do it. And then it's going to be data type, a drop-down list. Now, on earlier versions of QuickBooks Online, on lower versions, on Simple Start, Essentials, or Plus, you only get the option of drop-down and text and number. These other two options, number and date, they're only available in the advanced version of QuickBooks Online. So we're going to pick drop-down, and we're going to pick the name of all of our sales reps that work in our company. So I'm going to click on add item, and then we're going to put everybody's name here. Okay, so we got Hector, Mary, Carlos, and Steve. These are our 4 salespeople that we're going to use to track in our transactions. Now down here, you get to pick whether this custom field is tied to the customer or is tied to the transaction. Now, in the smaller versions of QuickBooks Online and Essentials, Simple Start, and Plus, you only have transaction as a default, and these options to do customer, vendor, or project are only available in the advanced edition. So we're going to do transaction because that is the most typical one, and we're going to draw some contrast and differences. So I'll explain that in a second. And then I'm going to pick only my income transactions, which in this case is sales receipt, invoice, estimate, credit memo, and refund receipt. All the other transactions, purchase order, expense, bill, check, vendor credit, and credit card credit, these are expense type of transactions or vendor type of transactions, so we won't be tracking sales rep in there. I also get to pick whether or not I want to see the sales rep in the forms. So I'm going to go ahead and select all the forms that I have selected, and also select print on forms. That is optional. You can track a sales rep or whatever custom field you have and not show it in the actual forms when you go print them or email them as a PDF or whatever. So that's really up to you. And really that's it. So once I click on save, my first custom field gets created. Let's create another custom field. I'm going to go to add field right here. And I'm going to create a custom field called project date. So let's say, for example, that every time I make an expenditure, I want to know what date I was working on the project, whatever project happens to be, right? So even if I buy something on Monday or Tuesday, or the bill comes on the 3rd of the month, I want to tie it to a particular project date. Again, these are very weird circumstances that everybody would have, and very, very specific and very personal. So I'm just trying to show you multiple examples that I could use multiple data types. So we're gonna pick here date, and as I mentioned earlier, this date option is only available in the advanced version of QuickBooks Online. Then I'm gonna pick transaction, and let's say this one I'm only gonna tie it to my expense transaction. So we have everything that's under this: purchase order, expense, bill, check, vendor credit. I can even choose not to print it on a form. So we'll click on save. So now we have that. Now I'm going to be consistent and edit that and put that little asterisk, as I mentioned earlier. Then we're going to click on save. Then I'm going to click one more field. And let's say this one's going to be a customer level field. And we're going to track maybe very specific information like our customers' a preferred way we want to call them. So for example, let's call it a nickname or something, or preferred name to call them. Okay, we'll change the spelling here, and I'll put an asterisk, and then the data type would be text and number, because it could be basically any text. Okay, and then in here I won't select any of these checkboxes because I don't want to see it in any transaction. What's interesting about both the customer and the vendor option is that you get to choose whether you want to see them both as a property of the customer and also as a property of the transaction. So in this case, we're going to limit this to the customer only. So we're actually not going to see this in the transaction at all. Okay, so we'll click on save. Okay, that's too long. Okay, so we'll just put here preferred name, see if that works. There we go. Okay, so it's a 30 character limit on custom field. Let's do one more. Let's add a field, and then let's see what other data type. Let's do number here. We'll just do a number, and then we'll put here internal costs or something like that. We'll talk about that in a second. So I'm gonna pick transaction here, and then I'm gonna use this only for sales transactions. Let's say for whatever reason I want to track what I think is gonna cost me to sell that service or product or whatever. Let's say I want to track manually via a number an amount, and I'm going to use that later on reports. Okay, so we'll click on save, and then we'll do maybe one more. Let's add field. Let's do vendor type. I'm going to do vendor type, and we're going to make this a vendor only, and then the data type in this case is going to be a drop-down field, and then we'll do commercial. And let's do institutional, and let's do local. Okay, just for whatever reason we are going to be tracking information about a vendor. We're going to be calling it one of these two: institutional, vendor, or local. All vendors will be called that, and then I get to choose whether or not I want this information in transactions. Let's do that. We're going to bring in the information in transactions. We'll pick all the vendor type fields, expense type fields. And again, this is an example where this is a vendor level custom field in which we're also going to use it or share that information in the expense transactions as well. So when we created that, let me add a little asterisk here. When we earlier, I just want to go back to that. When we created the customer level custom field, this nickname one, to click on edit, we did not pick any transactions to associate it with. So we kind of did a little bit of everything at this point, so you get to see that. Let's do one more. I'm going to go to add field, and then I'm going to do a drop down menu, and I'm going to do one called project type. Okay, we're going to make this a project level custom field, and we're not going to associate it with any of the transactions. And then we're going to put here a home. Let's do development, and let's do commercial, and we'll do, let's say, government. Okay, we'll do here individual home, the individual home, development, commercial, government. We'll do, let's say, apartment. Okay, so we have a couple of options here for custom fields. Again, at this point, you might be thinking, what the heck does this have to do with accounting? I get it. You have to really think abstractly if none of these examples pertain to you, because custom fields are going to be very specific to every single type of business. Okay, Another thing that's worth mentioning is each type of custom field. So we have project type, vendor type, transaction type, customer type, and well, those four. You can create up to 12 of each, right? So you can have up to 12 of each. So you have tons of options in QuickBooks Online Advanced. That's why it's a lot more powerful than the lower versions, because the lower versions give you, well, Simple Start gives you a maximum of 1, and Essentials and Plus gives you a maximum of 4, and you get the additional drop-down menus, and then you get additional category types of custom fields. Okay, so that's enough of that. All the custom fields are created. Now let's talk about how to enter the data. Let's start with, we're gonna go here in order. So we'll start with project type. I'm gonna click on duplicate here. That way I'm gonna keep this tab open. That way I can kind of follow along. And then let's start with our project level custom field. So I'm gonna go into projects here on the left-hand side. And then I can go into any of these projects and I can edit that project by clicking on the 3 little periods there, then click on edit project. And then down here, there's my custom field. So let's say that this one is going to be a individual home. Then we'll click on save. And then we have this one called store 13. Let's go to edit. And let's say this one is going to be, let's say commercial. We'll click on save. And then we'll go into this other one and we'll make this also commercial. So I'm basically pre-populating all the project data with this. And let's say Walker Properties is a development and we don't have any government ones. Okay. Now, unfortunately, you can't click on this little gear menu and show the custom field. That would be amazing because you could see it on the project screen, but that's just not available at the moment. So you're kind of stuck there. Then you're thinking, well, what would I do with that information? Okay. That's where you do reports. You'll be doing this with a report. So let's go into our reports and then let's see what reports we have for projects. So I'm just going to type project up here in the search. And we have a couple here. We have project profitability, estimates and progress, work in progress by project, estimate versus actuals. These are all, I think only this one, project profitability, is the one available in Plus, and all of these are available only in the Advanced Edition. So we're going to go through all the project-based reports and see which of them allow me to see the custom field. Let's go to project profitability, and we'll pull this report. Then here under filter, we'll see if we can pick that. So we can't. So you only have project status, project started off, and on, or project ended. So these are the only things that we can filter by. So unfortunately, we don't have the ability in the project profitability summary to filter them by project status. That would be useful, but it's just not there. Let's go to the next one. We'll type project here again. Let's do estimates and progress. Invoicing summary by project. Okay, let's see filter. Let's see if we can pick this. Okay, this one can. See, you can pick these. So we have internal costs, project date, sales rep. Okay, but unfortunately, this one only allows me to use transaction level custom fields. So interestingly enough, I cannot use my actual project level custom field for this. So that's a challenge as well, because we had that project type that was created that we don't even see in here. So that's not really that useful. Now, to talk about the distinction, and this is, as we go through the video, this stuff's going to make more sense, is this internal cost, vendor type, project date, and sales rep, all of these were transaction level custom fields. That means that if there are transactions involved with whatever's being reported here, let me do all dates here. So any of these transactions that add up to a dollar amount, they will only be filtered by those custom fields that are selected inside those transactions. So in this case, would be inside the estimate or inside of the invoice itself. So unfortunately, in estimate versus progress, the project level custom fields are not useful. Back into the report screen. Let's go into, let's type project again. Let's look at this work in progress by project. Let's click on that. And let's see if we can filter any of these projects. Let's do all dates here. So we have all the data across all the projects. We'll click on filter. And then here we have project name as the default, but let's go down and look for project type. So, and So we have all of our active projects. Then I'm going to click on filter, and then the current filter option is project name. We're going to go down and select project type. There we go. There's project type. And then we're going to click on the drop-down menu and click on, let's say, apartment. Let's see if we only see our apartment projects. Let's go into development. Okay, so there's my developer project in there. Let's go into, let's say, individual home. Okay, there's my individual home project. And I think we had a commercial one too, commercial. And there's my 2 individual commercials. So it absolutely works in the work in progress by project report. You can pick that project type. I don't know why there's 2 of them here. Maybe that's a little error from the software, but project type, that one by itself, that one works perfectly. Let's go back and look at one more report, the last of the project reports. Let's see. Let's do estimate versus actuals by project. Again, a report that's only available in QuickBooks Online Advanced. Let's go into filter. Let's click on the drop-down menu and let's see if project type is in here. It is. There's project type. Let's see, and we pick commercial. Okay, there's my 2 commercial projects. Beautiful. Let's see if we change that to let's see individual home. Okay, there's my only individual home. So that's it. That's in a nutshell all the type of reports that you can see the custom field in. Now there's another report that's only available in Intuit Enterprise Suite. It's called the Project Status Report. So if I actually type project status, it's not one of the options that you see in here. Unfortunately, it's just not a report that you can access directly through the reports menu. If you go into projects, there's no direct access to project status. Even if you go into a particular project and you go into project reports, there's also not project status report. But I'm going to pull it up anyway because I have the direct URL that you can get to it. It's a very customized report that comes defaulted in another version of QuickBooks called Intuit Enterprise Suite that shows you the status of all your projects. Okay, basically is project name, customer name, whether it's completed or not, and the project progress. It's really not that useful or powerful of a report, but at least it's a list of projects and their statuses. And from here, you can go into filter and then go down to project type. And then in here, I can pick and use the filter. So there's my commercial projects, my only 2 commercial projects. Click on the drop down. Do we have any government projects? No government projects. Any individual home projects? There they are. Okay. So it also works in that project status report. Something to keep in mind if you're using Intuit Enterprise Suite. But the closest thing to this type of report in QuickBooks Online Advanced would be going into projects on the left navigation bar, and then where it says status, going into all statuses, and then you get to see all your projects, and here to the right you see their status. Unfortunately, there's no drop-down menu where you can filter by a particular custom field, which would be awesome. And on the gear menu, as I mentioned earlier, you cannot show the custom field in here. So if Intuit were to add either a filter down here, like a drop-down filter where you can pick that custom field, or add it as a column here through the little gear menu, add it as a column and then be able to sort it, that would get us a lot closer to that project status report right here in QuickBooks Online Advanced. And it would make that feature of that custom field piece of data in the projects a lot more useful. Now, one thing worth mentioning is you can kind of build a report like the project status report using the custom report builder in QuickBooks Online Advanced. So let's go into reports, standard reports, and then we're going to go down to where it says custom report builder, and we're going to build a report from scratch. So we're going to click on create new report. And again, this is only available in the advanced version of QuickBooks Online. We're going to start with a blank report. Always start with a blank report. All these templates are honestly kind of useless. So we're going to blank report, and then one thing you can try always is the report wizard. So when you put the report wizard, you can type the word project and see if there's anything with the word project, which there's nothing. If you type invoice, for example, you see there's a bunch of templates with the word invoice on it, but for whatever reason, the wizard doesn't have anything with the word project. But keep checking on that. We're hoping that at some point Intuit adds that functionality in there. So we'll just start by adding data columns. And then in here, this is the trick here. We're not going to be in the reorder tab. We're going to be here, it says in the more columns tab, that shows you every single field that's available across all of your QuickBooks data. And then notice that we have three major categories. We have other, sales, and expenses. So we're going to pick this one called other. And then under other, we're going to see project here somewhere. Where's my project? There we go. We're going to expand project, and then we're going to start adding information to it. So we got project name, and then we have right here, custom fields, project type. Let's do all dates. And then we go down, and you see some of these have project types attached to them. Okay. I can even go into filter and go into project type and only show the ones that are not empty. So I only want to see the projects that have a type associated with it. Okay. Then I go back into columns, and then I can add more information. Project status, project started on, project ended on, project notes, project progress. So really extremely close to that report, that project status report that you get by default in with QuickBooks Online Advanced, but you can sort of build it on your own. Okay, so it's actually pretty much the same thing, I would say, but you have to build it from scratch. So then you would save it, and you would call it, my custom project report status or something like that. Okay, so custom project report status, that would be a report that I could always pull up and see that information. Now we do have the filter that's only showing the not empty. If I show the empty ones, I can actually go into each of those projects, change that information. So for example, this one here called project 2, we go back, change tabs here, go into projects. Let's see if I can find project 2 here somewhere. Where are you, project 2? There we go. I'm going to edit that and make that a government project. Click on save, and then go back into my report. And then I'm going to do it's not empty and refresh. And now project 2 should show because it has that data in the custom field. Now I'm going to refresh this screen so we kind of start the report from scratch. And I want to have a blank report. Okay, if it doesn't show me the blank report, I'll just go back to custom reports and create a report from scratch. I'm going to show you one more sort of out of left field, out of the box thinking type of report that you can build with that. So let's go into blank here, go to create, start by adding columns. And then instead of starting with project, I'm going to start with estimates. And then a lot of times estimates will be linked to projects. So I start by creating estimate data. So let's do here date. Let's do transaction number. Let's go down and look for name, and let's do amount, for example. Okay, so very simple. These are estimates essentially. I can go and do all dates. So these are all my estimates, the date, the number, the name, and the amount. Okay, simple, just a bunch of estimates. However, I can go down here in all these estimate level fields, and I can click on the option where it says linked attributes, and then I have projects as a linked attribute. So when I click on project down here, I can click on project type, see that? And then I can click on, let's say, project notes, and then I can basically cross-reference this piece of information. So let's look at these. Call Builders Lot 1A doesn't have a project type at the moment. Let me switch back over here. Let's look for call. Let's see what projects we got. Lot 1A. Let's click on that and let's edit that and let's add a custom field so we see that data. Let's say this is a development. Click on save, and I'll also add some notes. I'll say have not been able to get permits or something like that. Then we click on save. Then we go back into our reports here, and then I'm going to go ahead and refresh. So let's get new data here. The project notes is not there. Let's see if I missed something. Let me go back in here and go to edit again. Let's see. Okay, so I guess the project notes don't come in for some reason. Interesting. Let's go back here and see if there's other type of notes here. Let's type here notes. See, and there's estimate notes, but the project notes don't cross-reference. So that could just be an error that the good folks at Intuit haven't figured out how to link those two pieces of data, even though it's showing. But at least the custom field shows, and that's why I put an asterisk on it, so I always know that the custom field shows. But just kind of keep in mind that for one reason or the other, the project notes are not coming in. Let me go back into projects, see if I'm missing something here in the process. Let's see here. Yeah, there doesn't seem to be any other place where I can add notes. Yeah, definitely no other place where I can add notes. Maybe here somewhere. Nope. The notes are there, very clear, but there really isn't another place to add notes. Can I see the notes here? Yeah. Okay. So there is a place to add notes in here. So there's a little link on that. So you can see the notes on the project screen, but for some reason those notes don't permeate over to the reports. Again, hopefully somebody over Intuit will watch this video and notice that this is a problem, and they go back and troubleshoot that. But the focus here was custom fields, but this is just sort of an extended example on how you deal with this stuff when it comes to reports. That's project type, or actually that's the custom fields for projects. That's the most practical examples I can show you. It's still very much incomplete. I think it needs a lot more in order to be useful, but this should give you a pretty good universe of information in terms of what data you can see in that specific type of custom field. Okay, let's switch over to the next custom field here. Let's go back into that gear menu, and let's go into custom fields. And we spent a lot of time in that project type. Let's take a look at this vendor type. And then this one's a little bit different because this one's only used in expense transactions. And it's also, let me just go back here and edit. And it's also a vendor level custom field, which means that the data can be edited at the vendor level and also at the transaction level. So let's escape out of that. Let's go into expenses and vendors. And then we'll grab a couple of these vendors. So let's grab this 401k administrator. We're going to edit this vendor. Actually, I got to click on it first and then click on edit. And then down here in the custom field, I can make this, let's say, institutional. And then I click on save. Okay, so that's kind of how we're going to add information to the vendors. Now, I don't think that in this vendor list, I can click on the gear menu and add custom fields. Oh, yes, I can. Beautiful. So for some reason in this one I can't. So that actually helps me a lot because then I can just remove some of these things and then I can concentrate just on on that custom field. So let's go into accounting firm. Let's edit that. And let's call this one, let's go down to, we'll call this one local. Click on save. And another place where we can do this rather quickly is to go into reports. And then we're going to do a vendor, I think it's called a vendor contact list. Let me see if I remember correctly. Yeah, so it's called a vendor contact list. And then it shows you all of my vendors. And then I can go into columns. And then I can look for that custom field, okay, which is not available in the regular list of columns. So I'm going to have to bring it here and look for more columns. And then I'm going to search for vendor type. And that's going to be here under vendor, under custom fields, and the linked attribute there. So there we go. So now we have it in there, and I can get rid of some of these, get rid of all these things here. So I just want to see basically these two things. And then from here, I can save this report, and I'll call it vendor contact list with custom field. Click on save, and then I go each one, click on it. Edit, and we're going to call this one, let's say, commercial. Save. Okay, we can X out of that. We can refresh, and now we see that in there. Okay, let's just keep these three. We'll work with these three because I got one of each vendor type in there. Okay, so at some point in time, you're going to obviously want to populate all your vendors with that custom field in order for the data to be meaningful. And towards the end of the video, as I talked about at the beginning, I'm going to show you how you can use RightTool, which is a special tool that I co-developed. And there's one of the features that allows you to go into this report and mass change all the custom fields for that particular vendor or for a customer or for transactions. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. But for now, we got these 3 vendors that contain that vendor type in there. So for the time being, let's go back into reports and let's go into maybe expenses by vendor or something like that. Let's see what reports we have. Okay, perfect. Transaction list by vendor. That's actually perfect. Transaction list by vendor. And I'm going to do all dates. That's going to show me a whole bunch of transactions, right? A whole bunch of transactions. And it's grouped in this case by vendor. Okay. If I go into filter and I look for that vendor type filter, I go to vendor type. And then I only want to show, let's say, my commercial vendors. Right now, it's not going to show anything because there are no transactions. Again, there are no transactions tied to that a custom field. Because in a vendor contact list report, I can show the custom field associated with the vendor. But in a transaction report, I can only show the custom field associated with the transaction in itself. And so because there are no transactions in which we have tagged with that custom field, nothing shows yet. However, let's go into the new screen here. I'm going to create an expense. And then I'm going to go into, I think it was called something insurance, automobile insurance company. And then we'll make an insurance expense in here, just insurance. And then we'll make this $600 or $6,000, whatever. And then here where it says vendor type, that's by default, it chose commercial because it's tied to the vendor name. So even though the custom field is tied to the vendor name, the past transactions do not show with the custom field because I created a custom field after the transactions were created. However, when I start creating new transactions after the custom field is created and I'm tagging the transactions with that, those now start showing up. So if I click on save, and then I'll do one more transaction here. Let me do save and new. And I'm going to pick a different vendor altogether. Let's do business supply center, which has no default custom field. Keep that in mind. But I'm going to go in there and put commercial. And then I'm going to go in here and put, let's say, $5,000. And then I click on save. So I got 2 transactions, one that has a default vendor level custom field with tag of commercial, and another one that doesn't have anything on tagged in the vendor level, but is tagged in the transaction. So then when we go back in here and we click on refresh, we had a vendor type, a filter for commercial. So that's going to show in there, right? Because these fields were inside the transactions themselves. So that's just a really, really curious, sort of super interesting way to look at this, just because of the nature of how custom fields work in this particular case for transaction level custom fields. Now, here is the sort of mind-bending part of this whole thing. Okay, and you're gonna have to open your eyes and pay attention. There's a lot of little moving parts here. So I'm gonna click here on general options, and then I'm gonna click where it says column configurations, and then I'm gonna turn this thing on called show entity names in columns. And I'll put a little checkbox on that. Okay, so now every single field is going to say under it whether it's transaction level or name level. Okay, we're about to get there. Okay, now here's the really confusing part. I'm going to go into columns, and then I'm going to turn on vendor type, which in this case, see, it's transaction level. So I'm going to turn that on. So now we get to see our vendor type on the transaction level, which for some reason is not showing here, which is weird. Because I just filtered by, let me see, I just filtered by that. So I don't know why it's showing blank. But anyway, let's go back into columns here. And then I'm going to go into more columns. And then I'm going to put a little asterisk. Because I put asterisks in all my custom fields, it'll be very easy for me to see if there's any other custom fields with an asterisk next to it. So right here, there's a vendor type and there's my other custom fields. And then under vendor, there's another field called vendor type, which is the same thing as this custom field. The difference is that this one is tied to the transaction and one is tied to okay, it looks like it refreshed now. So one's tied to the transaction and one's tied to the vendor. That is super curious. And the reason why that matters is because if you remember with the specific example I showed, we had the automobile insurance company vendor does have that field tied to the name of the vendor as well as it is in the transaction. So I'll give you an example. I'm going to go into this transaction, and then I'm going to remove the vendor type completely. I'm going to pick something else. I mean, to make it a bit more confusing, I'm going to pick local and then click on save. And then go back into X out of that, and then go back into my report and refresh. And that is no longer going to show because I'm using the vendor type for the transaction. So it's only going to find transactions that contain that custom field in the transaction itself. But if I switch over and use the other vendor type, the one that's in the vendor level, which right now doesn't have any filter, and then I pick, let's say, local, okay, nothing will show up, or I guess accounting firm was there. Or I pick, let's say, commercial and X out of that, okay, and it should show every transaction tied to automobile expense. So this is a really, really important point, that none of these transactions, if I go in them, actually contain the custom field in the transaction itself. Okay, so we'll go back and open one at random. None of them contain it, and they could contain something else altogether, but because I asked it to filter by vendor type custom field that's tied to the vendor, to the entity vendor, not to the transaction, this happens. So this stuff really, really blows people's minds because it's just very specific. And the problem is that it doesn't make it very clear to you unless you turn that little checkbox to know what type of field it is. So you have to read it. And this actually should help you understand sort of the flow of how Custom Report Builder picks from where it's going to be reading that piece of information. Now, if I show both of them, let's see, are they both showing? Yeah. So it's a good example here. So we have for vendor type transaction, we have local was picked as a custom field in that transaction, but the actual custom field in the vendor is commercial. So that should probably get you thinking quite a bit about strategically when you would use the vendor level custom field and the transaction level custom field. Okay, I'm gonna go mark another vendor, the same commercial custom field, so we still see it on this report. So I'm gonna go to the other tab here. I'm gonna go into vendors, and then I'll pick another vendor here. Let's say, let's grab this business supply center. Let's edit that, and let's make this one commercial. Go down here, make it commercial. Click on save. Then I'll go back to the transaction list by vendor, refresh, see if we get more transactions in here. Yes, we are. We got a couple of transactions in there. That's good enough for me. Now I'm going to go into these two transactions. Let me go in here and edit one of these transactions. And then I'm going to use the other custom field, the date level custom field. And we're going to make this one an April 15th project date, whatever that means. Again, it's just an example of a date. We can use delivery date. We can say expected ship date. We can say return date, whatever, right? So whatever date you want to track as a custom field, that's what that's for. Okay, so we'll click on save. And then we'll X out of that, look at the other transaction, say this one, and this one, we're going to change this one to April 30th. So I got two transactions with different custom field, date level custom field data in it. So we'll click on save. So now I go back into my report, and I'm going to go into columns, and then I'm going to look for that project date piece of data, turn that on, and then I'll get rid of some stuff that I might not need from the report. So I could just look at the project dates. There we go. So now we got right here in the bottom, we got two transactions with two different project dates, so to speak, or custom fields with dates in them. Then I can also filter. So I go back into filter, and then I can go into add condition, and I can look for project date, and then I can pick up a specific date or a range. So I can say, let's say, can I do a range? Yes, I can. So let's do, we'll do custom dates right here. So let's say from April 1st to April 20th, 2025. Then it shows me one transaction only. If I were to pick, let's say, April 16th, 25 to April 20th, nothing shows. But then if I pick another date range that includes that date, the other transaction shows, and then I can go all the way to the beginning of the month or beginning of the year, and then it shows those. So that's really cool that with these date custom fields, you can use date ranges in the custom reports to only show those transactions, again, independent of the actual transaction dates. The actual transaction dates are not relevant in this case. It's the whatever project date tag we used or whatever custom field tag we used when tagging those transactions. Let's use the same custom field in sort of different contexts. I'm going to go back into standard reports, and then let's create another custom field from scratch. So this time around, I'm just going to build a custom field from scratch. I'll click on create new report, blank, create, and start adding columns. And normally I just put an asterisk there, so it shows me all my custom fields. And then I'm going to go to my transactions, and then I'm going to select with project date. That way, that will show me all the transactions that contain project date data in it. I'm going to go into filters. I'm going to select project date and then pick not empty. So only going to show me the transactions that contain that project date data. Let's do all reports, so all my transactions show. Then I'm going to go back into columns, and then I start adding transaction data. So let's add date, transaction type, transaction number. Let's do name and amount. So that's typically the base type of information that we want to add in there. Now I'm going to go into expenses here. I'm going to pick another expense here at random. Let's pick this thing here, and then we'll make this project date April 2nd. Save that. Let's grab another transaction at random. We'll pick this one, and then we'll add some sort of project date into it. Click on save. Grab another transaction at random. So you can see I'm just grabbing random transactions and adding different data into these custom fields. Okay, grab one more. And we'll make this somewhere in March and click on save. So I went to a couple of transactions, added some data in this date level, in this transaction level date type custom field. Go back into custom report. I'm going to refresh. So now I should see all these transactions. Notice that I have this project date as my first field, so to speak. Then when I go into my grouping, I can group it in different ways. And what's really cool, I can even group it by that date level custom field, which is really powerful. So I can go to by month, and then I can have, based on the custom field, I get my transactions are grouped by month, even though the actual transaction date has nothing to do with how I'm grouping that report. So this is why, believe it or not, those date level custom fields, which they seem kind of trivial when you're creating them, and they're only available in QuickBooks Online Advanced, they're super, super powerful. Okay, let's go back into custom fields, and let's take a look at another custom field, this one that we called internal costs, which is a transaction level custom field that's only on these sales type of transactions. Let's go back into our custom reports. I'm going to go backwards and create the report again from scratch. And notice that now I'm sort of starting from the report and then modifying the transaction. So you start seeing the results of the report in real time, which I think is the best way to kind of understand how this works. So let's go to create new report. I'm going to go into blank, click on create, and then I'm going to go to add data columns. I always start that way. And I can go into more columns, and I can just look at sales in this case and go by particular transaction type. So if I want to only look at invoices, I can start that way. But generally, I like just doing transactions. Like, to me, that sounds to be kind of the best way to do it. So I'm going to do date, transaction type, transaction number. Let's do name. That's always important, and amount. Okay, that's kind of like the baseline of the data on the reports. Then down here, we're going to go to custom fields, and then we will do internal costs. Okay, and then under filters, we're going to go into internal costs, not empty. Okay, that way only shows me transactions that contain that internal cost data in it, which right now, as we speak, there's absolutely nothing. Right? No transactions have that, which is fine. It's kind of what we wanted to start. Go back into the other tab here, and let's gonna go to invoices. And I'm just gonna pick a couple of invoices that have been created in the past. I'm gonna go into my past invoices. I'll pick this one. And then I'll go down and put that the internal cost for this invoice is $12,000, for example. So we'll click on save. Yes. And then we'll go to another transaction. Let's grab this one. And let's say that we can do, this one is 13,500. Click on save. Yes. Grab another one. This one. And then let's say this internal cost is 875 and save. Again, there are probably much better ways to run profitability by customer, by job, but there's actually no such thing as profitability by invoice, especially when you're selling services and not products, not inventory products. So the closest thing to be able to maybe possibly see some sort of profitability by invoice, it could be like this. And it could also be even more useful when trying to calculate, for example, commission for a sales rep. So we'll go back and add sales rep data to this too. I'll add it to the other two transactions as well. And let's X out of that. Let's go back into the report and refresh. So there we go. We have our amounts and our internal costs next to it. I probably also want to bring in my sales reps. So let's go into columns. Let's look for sales rep. There we go. And then we probably want to group it by sales rep. That'll probably be a smarter way to do it. There we go. So we got one sale for Hector and then two sales that don't have a sales rep. So let's go back and change those. Make this one Mary. Yes. And let's X out of that. And let's grab this other one. And we'll make this one Hector and click on save. Let's grab another transaction. Let's grab this one here. And let's make this 12,896. And the sales rep will be Steve. And save. Yes. Okay, that should be enough data. I can go back into X out of that, go back into my report, click on refresh. Now I see a lot richer data, right? I got my two sales for Hector, I got my one sale for Mary, my one sale for Steve, then I have my amount and my internal cost. Now, unfortunately, there's no way to add like, let's call a profit line that will calculate the amount and the cost. But if you're trying to maybe get to, to pay a commission to a sales rep by profit, and you want to track that data in QuickBooks and not somewhere else, then you use that internal cost field to add the data. And then, of course, you would export this into Excel and then do the last pieces of calculation there, which you can do because the data, it's already in there. So it's kind of a good piece of information that you can have with this number-only level custom field. That's what the purpose would be. And if you try to create, let's say I create an invoice and I try to put something in that custom field other than a number. So I grab one of these and let's say I'm going to put in here, put non-available or something. It says must be a number. It doesn't even let me save. So I'm stuck having to put a number in it in order for me be able to move on, right? So that's why these restricted level custom fields are really valuable. And of course, internal cost that would be hidden. You wouldn't want your customer to see that. But that's just an example of why it's valuable to restrict the type of data that goes in there, the drop downs, the dollar amounts, the dates. I mean, all these examples should give illustration on why that's so powerful. Okay, or why that's that allows your data to be useful. Now, the other cool thing about this is staying within this sales rep concept is I can collapse the view and then only see my sales, in this case by rep. So essentially the custom fields allow me to do sales by rep. But what's also really cool is pivot tables. So I can click on pivot table and I can go rows. I can put, let's say, sales rep, and then under columns I can put up here columns I can put name, and then values I can put amount. And then you get basically a matrix. You get to see Hector, sold, to these two customers, and then you have Mary sold to this one customer, and they have Steve to sold to this one customer. Let's do another one here. It's a different customer altogether. Let's do save. Let's do save and new. Save and new, and then I'll pick another customer here. Let's pick one of these guys here, Current Lightning, and then let's do Mary, and we'll ignore internal cost for now, and then let's put here a big amount, $1,000, and then we'll do save and new, and then I'll grab another customer altogether at random, and then we'll grab here for Mary as well, and then we'll pick another product here, and let's do $3,000, and then click on save and close, and then let's go back into our custom report, click refresh, and then Mary should have more sales across more customers now. And I can also flip it, so I can do let's do sales rep in the top, and then customer in the rows. So now I got my 3 sales reps, I got all my customers, and then I have my a matrix of sales by rep by customer. Okay, so it's just really neat. And in this case, we have the customers and the projects not grouped. So if I turn off the pivot table, and then I come in here and go into columns, and let's see here, the names are showing me full names, right? Customer and job. So I can go into linked attributes, go into customer, and just pull the customer name. So you can see that I got just the customer name in this case, not the customer name and project. So I can clean that up a little bit. So when I go back into my pivot table, instead of picking name, I'll pick customer, and then I get a little bit cleaner information in here. So I got my customer names, and let's see if my sales reps, let's see if I can fix my sales reps again. Okay, there we go. So there's just the customer name, not name and project. So it's a little bit cleaner information when you do your pivot table. So that's customer, and then we have name that contains both the customer name and the project name. So it gives you a general idea how these custom fields by transaction level will work. Let's see if we have any more to show. Okay, so the last one would be like this customer nickname example that we had. So let's go back to our standard reports, and let's pull up our customer contact list. So it should be customer contact list. There we go. Okay, so there's all my customer contacts. Let's go into columns, and let's go look for this nickname. So there's nickname, preferred name. I can turn everything off and just show that. Okay, so there's my customers, and then there's the nickname or preferred name or contact name or whatever a custom field I want to track. I can click on any of these, and I can add custom information in those fields. So let's go into edit, and we're gonna put here Danny. Click on save. Excited that. Let's say this one, and I'll add something else in here. We'll add here can demand. Okay, and then we'll do one more. Let's do this one. We'll put Lucy O or whatever. Okay, whatever type of random data you want to track in there. So I go back into my custom report. I hit refresh, and now we have all of our customer contact level field data. You can track your customer's birthday, right, with a date level custom field. You can track the name of their dog if you're a veterinarian and you want to know the name of the dog or their cats or whatever, name of their kids, or the name of their best employee, or the nickname that they give to how they treat their customers, right? So like some of my clients call their customers client or customer or tenants or vendors or merchants, right? Like they'll use specific lingo, and if you want to put that stuff into QuickBooks, so when you go call the customer to sell them more stuff or tell them that they haven't paid you or whatever, you start using their lingo. So it kind of a little bit acts like a CRM system. But that's just a really interesting piece of information. And to kind of like continue doing this, let's say I'm going to go back and start over, do the reports again. We're going to see how this stuff comes along pretty interestingly. So let's do a custom report. We'll do blank. And then we'll do custom data. Let's find that nickname attribute. Okay, that would be the first field. Then I'm going to go into filter. You notice I do this quite a bit. And I do not empty. That way it only shows me the transactions that will contain that data in it. And then we're going to bring in some date, transaction type, let's say number and amount. Okay. But then when I went into my columns, let's go back into nickname again. Okay. There's my preferred name, nickname, but there should be one more. It should be here somewhere. Let's see. Maybe I don't have any transactions with that. So let's go back in here. Actually, let's go back into this one. I think this is the one that has Lucy O, right? Yeah, that one that has Lucy O. So let's create an invoice for them. Let's do invoice. And we'll create a new invoice and bring that information in here. That's good enough. Go back into my custom report and click on refresh. And there it is, right? So any new transactions that get created with that with a customer that contains that customer level custom field, we'll start reporting in here. And then you can always go into pivot table, and instead of picking the actual customer name, you pick that nickname, and then you go into whatever. Let's do here by year, and then we'll do amount, and then you get to see that. Okay, and then I'll go back and maybe create another transaction with one of those custom fields. Let's see. I'm gonna go to nickname. Let's see which other one has one here. There we go. Can demand. It's a good example. So I'll go and create a new invoice for this current lightning. Just put a different dollar amount in there. Click on save. Go back into my custom report. Click on refresh. And there we go. There's the sales for can demand, right? The custom field and Lucio, and there is my total. So the only thing that's peculiar about this is for the name level custom fields, the transactions have to be created after the fact, after the custom field has been entered. Whereas, for example, with the vendor level, it was different. Like it even picked all the historical stuff. But the customer ones, for some reason, I don't know if that's a technical issue that they need to fix. Again, hoping somebody from Intuit watches this whole video and kind of sees all these little random weird behaviors to see how it works. But I think at this point, I've shown you essentially everything that you can see with custom fields. Let's move on to RightTool, which you're going to absolutely love. Okay, so my app, RightTool, which is this right navigation bar that opens in the side of QuickBooks once you install it, added a new feature that allows you to batch edit those custom fields across multiple transactions. So I'm going to click on settings. Then I'm going to go into Experiments Pro because it's a brand new experimental feature. And it's called Batch Edit Inside Reports. And I'm going to make sure that that's on. Now in the little eye icon, you're going to see a video that explains how the feature works. But also there's a little link in all the reports that we have created built-in reclassifying tool. So it's not just changing custom fields. So yes, custom fields is one of them, but we can also custom change projects inside of line items of transactions. We can we can change the custom fields associated with vendors, with customers. We can change whether a transaction is billable, or we can batch change transactions, make them billable or unmark them billable. So all sorts of things that we can do. But we're going to be focusing on this one called Change Custom Fields. And we have a very specific report that we can do this in. So I'm going to click on the link that's in there to run the QuickBooks online report in which we're going to be able to batch edit those custom fields. Now I'll collapse RightTool here on the right hand side, and I'll also collapse the left navigation side. So we have a bunch of transactions, right? A lot of transactions. Some of them contain custom fields, some don't. There's a little button here called batch edit. Once I click on batch edit, it's going to open the pop-up for RightTool to be able to reclassify those custom fields. But first, we have to narrow down the specific transactions that we want to add those custom fields to, and also add the custom fields that we want to reclassify as well. So let's start by going into filter, and then we're going to go into transaction type, and then just do invoices for now. Okay, that will make it a lot easier because the report by default pretty much shows everything. So there's all my invoices. Okay, then I'm going to do all dates here, so it shows all the invoices, and the first group of invoices under this accounts receivable group, that's the one that we're going to reclassify. We see all the invoice numbers here, all the customers' names here. Now I'm going to go into column, and I'll get rid of all these data points that I don't need, and just narrow it down to transaction date, transaction type, number, name, and amount. That's good enough. But then down here, I'm going to add that custom field. So let's say I want to add that sales rep custom field. Click on that, and then we'll see that some transactions will have a sales rep and some will not. Let's see if any of them have it. Okay, so all of these don't have it. Let's go into filter, and let's add one more condition, and let's go into sales rep, and let's do is Carlos. Let's see if it shows any for Carlos. Those are all the Carlos ones. Let's see if any for Hector. There's all my Hector ones. If I switch it to Mary, there's all my Mary ones. And then if I switch it to Steve, there's all the ones for Steve. Perfect. Okay, so we'll select the empty ones only. So is empty. That way I'm only seeing essentially all the empty ones only. So not the ones that have particular sales reps in them. I could also go into group by and change the grouping by sales rep as well. So I can go find the sales rep and change that. But for now, we're gonna keep it like that. So this invoices here are the whole universe of transactions that I want to add a rep to. So all these are missing at the moment. Okay, and to kind of prove that, I'm going to go and duplicate this report, and then I'll leave this one here because this is the one that we're going to be using to reclassify. But I'm going to come in here and I'm going to go to group by, and then I'm going to group this by sales rep. And I'm going to go into filter and then do transaction type, and then do invoices as well. Invoices. There we go. So we have all the invoices for Carlos. Let's do all dates. Okay. So we have all the Hector ones, all the Mary ones, all the blank ones, all the Steve ones, all the Carlos ones. So all of these 251 are all the line items associated with invoices that are missing essentially a sales rep. So as I update the sales rep on these transactions, I can continue to hit refresh, 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 and you're going to see how these numbers of the ones that are missing will go down. So this number here, the one that's got missing sales reps, that's the one we're going to be focusing in, and these are essentially the same ones on this report that we're going to start reclassifying. So let's go into batch edit, and then this is the RightTool tool that says which field you want to change. So let's do sales rep. And by the way, if I were to enable a different custom field, let's say internal cost, or let's say project date, I'm not sure if that one's available in income transactions. I don't think so, but I think only internal cost and sales rep are the ones that we created for sales transactions. But if I click on batch edit, then it's going to ask me which of the custom fields you want to batch edit, right? So that's the purpose of turning them on. So the RightTool can detect which is the one that you want to do it on. So we'll start with sales rep. We're going here, and then we'll pick all the transactions that are going to belong to specific sales rep. So I just pick these here. Let's say I identify them by the name of the customer or whatever. Let's say these are all Hectors, and then I click on run batch, and then the indicator will tell me the progress, right? So this is going to take a few seconds to do because it's actually going in the background without you seeing it. It's opening every transaction adding that custom field, opening the next transaction, adding the custom field. This is all happening behind the scenes. You can't see it, but sort of behind the screen. And then here is just keeping track of how many you're doing. Okay, so then once that completes, this report naturally, because we have a filter that's only showing the empty ones, will continue to shrink. So let's go to batch edit. Let's do sales rep. And let's grab a couple of these. And let's say these are Steve's. And we'll go to run batch. And then we'll just watch all these transactions be edited in the background. Perfect. We'll go back to the other report that we were running and just do a refresh. And you see that, just collapse these. See that there's a lot less transaction lines associated with that. Now, this is transaction lines, which means that there could be more than one associated with the same invoice number. And there's ways to kind of fix that. One of the ways to fix that is to add one more condition and do distribution accounts receivable. That will only show me one line essentially. So now you're going to see one line per transaction. So this will be a little bit cleaner to see, because now we actually see there's 13 invoices for Hector, 4 for Mary, 6 for Steve, 4 for Carlos, and there's 4 left. That's it. There's only 4 left that don't have a custom field. So we'll go back over here, and these are the 4, right? Because we have the sales rep is empty. So let's go to batch edit, sales rep. And again, it's just the first 4 that we really care about. We'll grab the first 2, give them to Carlos. Okay, so once that's done, we'll grab the last 2, and we'll give them to, say, Steve. Run batch. Perfect. Okay, so that will essentially complete. Now, every single one of my invoices contain, look at all dates. There's nothing's missing a sales rep, which is great because now we have a more complete report. So we'll go back in here and hit refresh, and we should see nothing else. Perfect. Nothing else with that missing amount. And let's go in here into columns and let's get rid of some of these extra pieces of information that we don't need. Boom. And there's my sales by rep. And all my, basically my entire universe of transactions now have a rep. And then I can do all the awesome stuff like a pivot table. And I can go sales rep. And then the columns could just be, let's say, the customer or something like that. Okay. And the values would be the amount. Okay. And then I can have something really nice like that, or flip it. Let's do customer in the top. We'll pick something at random. So let's do columns as the sales rep. So customers here in the rows and the sales reps. So I got my sales by rep here at the bottom, and then I have my sales by customer here on the side. So really powerful stuff. All this stuff brought to you by RightTool. And as a quick reminder, there's actually over 100 features in RightTool. I just showed you one. Actually, I showed you one portion of one of them. So you definitely want to check out RightTool. Really easy. You go to righttool.app, and then on righttool.app, there's a button right there in the top that says download RightTool. And then you're going to be in the Chrome Web Store. You have to be in Google Chrome, and you're going to see a button here that says add to Chrome. Once you click that, it's added. The free features are going to help you with the navigation, and then the pro features are going to help you how to do batch transactions. So like that's an example of a pro feature, which is part of the paid version of RightTool. But you can explore the free version of RightTool because it has over 50 or 60 features just by itself. So check out the free version, and then once you need more power, like what I just showed you with the batch editing, the batch editing tool. So once you want to go and do things like this, that's when you're going to get the paid version, the pro version of RightTool, which is going to help you save so much time. Will be worth the money on probably the first task that you do after you purchase RightTool. So anyway, I hope that this video was useful, that you understand how custom fields work in QuickBooks Online Advanced. You understand the difference between the types of custom fields. You understand the nuances between the reports. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks.